I just do not want to go to the store today. So I'm sitting on my front porch just enjoying the morning as I'm wont to do. It's about 10 days out from my start date for the Colorado Trail through hike. I recognize that it's probably a good time to get myself organized. So for today I'm going to do 3 things. I'm going to go ahead and buy all the supplies that I need for resupply. I'm going to repackage those things into a mailbox. I'm going to show you how to address and get those things mailed out so that your things can be waiting for you up trail and so you can have a successful through hike. All right, I made it out of my house. I'm here at just a local natural food grocery store. I think this is going to be preferable. So I was looking at my planning and I'm going to need about 11 days of food, 6-day box and a 5-day box. 6 days is 100 miles of food and the 5 days is going to be 75. As I was kind of thinking about the options about what I'm going to have for resupply, I figured it's probably going to be smaller markets, maybe convenience stores, these sorts of things. So while I have a chance to send some things ahead to myself, I decided that I have the things that I really am going to want sent ahead for when I get there on trail. So this is the good stuff right here, yep. I got all my supplies. I spent way too much money, but that's okay. All right, one more stop to finish up this adventure. I'm gonna go see what kind of mess I've made for myself. All right, cool, this is stop 2. Hopefully just be able to get everything else I need here. All right, so round 2 is done. I just got my second round of resupply. I normally don't like to shop at Walmart because it's the evil empire, and that's a scientific fact. But nonetheless, there are a couple of things that they do have consistently that I can't find other places, like instant refried beans and Spam singles. All right, last stop I gotta make is over at the post office just to retrieve some packing materials. So this is post office part 1. All right, so in general, the post office makes it really easy to be able to send yourself things. When you go into the post office, there should be like a little kiosk where you should just be able to grab different sizes of flat rate boxes. I found that between the medium and the large, you can normally fit anywhere between like 3 to 7 days. But before you opt to use the US Postal Service, make sure that you are checking your data and that you're checking in with whomever that is that you're sending a box to make sure that they will accept that package. There are some places that will only accept UPS, maybe FedEx. More often than not, people will accept USPS, but just double check to make sure before you send something out and it just gets lost in the system and just never makes it to where you are. All right, so as you're thinking about the resupply, it might be important to address a couple of questions. And the 3 things that I kind of think about is the how, the what, and the why. So the first one being, how am I going to resupply? So there's a lot of different options that you're going to have. The most important thing is going to be to consult the data that you have about potential town stops, road crossings, if there's any other services that might be available en route on trail. Those are going to be the easiest places to be able to stop. Those aren't going to change. No one's going to move Buena Vista any closer to the front range than it already exists. So when you're thinking about how, just looking at the potential stops, reviewing the data about where the town stops might be and what the potential services are at those stops. Another question that you can ask on how, there's a couple of things that you can do. You can do a food drop like I'm preparing here. You can also just plan on buying in town and just treating the town like it's your own local grocery store. Or you can do a sort of blended option. So if you have any types of dietary restrictions or there's food that you're particularly fond of, let's say that you're really into maple glazed hickory smoked cashews or something, and you can only get those in one place, and you really want to have those along your hike, then you might want to send those cashews ahead to yourself. Do it kind of blended. So maybe send half the food that you need and then plan on buying the additional half for what is potentially available. Blended option could be really convenient if there's like maybe a small convenience store or something that you think that they're going to have the staples, right? So tuna, ramen, things for dinner, maybe candy bars, etc. So what I might do like in a blended type situation is send ahead some dinners, maybe some things, some of my drink mixes, and then just plan on completing the rest of my resupply from the options that they have available. The question of where, maybe that there's a small resort, a campground, a convenience store, maybe a hiker-friendly hostel, these sorts of things. Looking at what they might have available for resupply, and if that's not going to be adequate for you, then just thinking about sending ahead. Another big question of the where and the how am I going to resupply is always look at the hours, all right? So if you're going to send to a post office, make sure that when you plan on getting to that post office, it's going to be open. There's been times where I rolled into town on a Sunday morning and had to take an inadvertent zero just so I could wait for either the post office or another business to open up so that I could get the things that I had sent. So that's another thing to kind of keep in mind, even if like you are doing your planning and you're kind of thinking, oh, like, my provisional planning is kind of putting me there on a weekend, like maybe reconsider, how it is that you want to resupply. When it comes to box security, that is one thing that you also need to kind of keep in mind. Where am I sending this box? How are they storing it? All the rest of this. If there's anything that's perishable, I'd opt not to send that. If there's anything that's going to melt, and while it melts and reconstitutes itself, it's going to be disgusting, I'd also maybe not send these types of things. So, you know, just things that are really non-perishable, that are very stable, and that can survive a lot of temperature extremes. And lastly, the question of why. Why do we do this? Why do we have to do this? Well, clearly, you know, I'm not going to be able to carry. I know that there are people who have done it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not one of those people. But, you know, I've known people that have carried, you know, the food for the entire 485 miles of the Colorado Trail. That's not what my intention is on this part. I do want to stop and resupply and all the rest of these sorts of things. So why do we do this? Why is because it's a long trip, right? So, you know, I can carry as many provisions as I possibly can in my backpack. There's going to come a time when that's going to run out. It's really good. So when you make a town stop, not only are you able to get food, but potentially a shower, maybe clean your clothes, get a hot meal, maybe sleep in a warm bed with clean sheets or something if that's what you're into. There's a lot of really good reasons why you want to plan a resupply a little farther ahead, especially if there's areas that you're kind of interested in, you know. So just being really deliberate when it comes to your planning and just really having a good reason as to why. Why are you taking yourself off of that trail? Every time, I found that every time that I go off a trail, every time I go into town, there's an opportunity for me to leave the trail indefinitely. So also factor that into your why. Why am I going into this town? What is my real motivation? Am I looking to get rest? Am I looking to just, you know, zone out on social for the next 6 hours? Do I just need a shower? Or do I just need provisions and I'm going to hit it? Everyone's going to have their own motivations. Everybody's got to have their own why. And the why is really going to factor in pretty significantly, I think, when it comes to resupply options. All right, so now I've got all my supplies. I've got all the food that I'm gonna need for resupply. I've got the packaging materials that I'll need, and so the next step is just gonna be repackaging all the food. Clearly, most of the packaging that food comes in, there's gonna be an extra volume, or it's just like not gonna be convenient to carry, like in particular this box of macaroni and cheese. Clearly, I'm not gonna put this box of macaroni and cheese into my backpack, so I'll just take the macaroni and the little cheese packet. I'll put it into Ziploc, and I'll just go through all the different items like this, making sure that there's any additional packaging that's removed, and then it's just I repackage it so that I can carry it more conveniently in my food bag. And I mean, a good way to go about doing this is either just to like consolidate if there's any bulk items, anything else like that. If you're like really into portioning or things like that, I guess like you could portion out your food. I've never calorie counted ever. When it comes to the numbers and stuff like that, it's not really something that I'm concerned with. Usually when it comes to the food resupply, I rely on two things. Number one is the types of conditions that I'll anticipate and get condition reports from online, just looking at the data, that could be a topo or the elevation profile, things like that. And the second one's really just experience that I've had through hiking. I kind of anticipate about how many miles I'll hike a day, approximately how much food I'll consume during the course of a day, and then, you know, the rest is just a simple mathematical formula and trying to be honest with myself. The fact that I always carry too much food. And then an easy way to go about doing this is just getting some Ziploc bags, just making sure everything fits in this box and making sure taking all the food out of the superfluous package, repackaging it into a slightly less superfluous package. All right, and once you get everything repackaged and sort of organized, so like I've got my 6-day box for that's 100 miles, I got my 5-day box for 75 miles, that I verified the addresses so that I can get everything sent out.
Sure.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I'm a Colorado Trail through hiker. You are still accepting mailboxes this year?
Yeah, we are. Our website has all the accurate info. The store name, care of you-hiker with an ETA would be great.
I appreciate it, and I'll be seeing you soon.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. They probably won't care. They're not going to care. They're not going to care that the box is coming from me, but it's important to just go ahead and verify the information that I've been able to acquire. As you may know, information goes bad, businesses close, global pandemics, these types of things are going to interfere with some people's planning. They're sort of marked to differentiate your boxes from others. You can imagine that if you walk into a room and there's 500 boxes and they all look the same, it's going to be a real chore. Got everything packed up. Now it's just time to drop it at the post. Back at the post office trip times 2. But there's a couple of things that you can do with USPS. At some of the larger post office, they'll have a little self-sort kiosk like this thing. You're just going to punch in the address and it'll print out a little label. You drop it in the thing and then hopefully it gets to where it's going. Second thing that you can do, of course, is just go up to the front counter, have a nice conversation with the postal worker. I'll let them know that you're going to go on a through hike. There isn't anything that's going to explode inside of your box except for maybe a tuna pack. Everything did fit in a large box. I was anticipating a medium box, but it's been a while since I sent myself a resupply. So a large flat rate box, the USPS, is running about $21. Should take about 2 or 3 days to get to where you're going, especially if you're local like I am. And my last recommendation for when packing a box, make sure you put your legal name on the label. Whatever name that you have on your ID, in case they do want to check to make sure that you are who you claim you are. You can't put your trail name, any other nicknames and things, but do make sure that there is your legal name located somewhere on the label or somewhere on the box so that there's not any problems retrieving your things when you get to where you're going. All right, so there you go. It's a long process. It's basically a whole day. Thanks for watching. I hope that you're able to get some tips, tricks, maybe some insight about how this whole resupply thing kind of works. It's really an easy process. It's not too bad. I think the hardest part is always just the planning. Being honest with yourself about how much food that you may potentially need, trying to incorporate as much variety into those boxes as you possibly can, because if you have the same 5 days worth of food in every box that you send yourself, it's gonna get really old quick. You're gonna throw most of that food into a hiker box. I'm gonna eat it while you're shopping at Safeway. Yeah, so the 3 things we went through is acquiring the food, aka shopping. Number 2 is just repackaging, individualize the portions. And the last thing was that we address the box and send it on out. Be sure to like and subscribe. And please leave any comments if there's anything that I've missed, any other insights that you'd like to share with me, or just a general impression of how everything's going.